Breaking: what really happened to Sonia Uche on set has finally been revealed, and it's worse than we thought. Guys, you won't believe this. I pray nothing happened to our favorite actress Sonia Uche. My lovely viewers, if you've been anywhere near social media in the last 48 hours, then you already know that something serious went down with Sonia Uche on a movie set, and the rumors have been flying around faster than a Lagos downfall in third mainland traffic. Everyone has been speculating, creating theories, spreading half-truths, and basically turning themselves into amateur detectives trying to figure out what really happened to one of Nollywood's most beloved actresses. Some people said it was just exhaustion, others whispered about relationship drama, a few conspiracy theorists even suggested it was all staged for publicity, and honestly, the confusion has been so thick you could cut it with a knife and serve it for dinner. But just 45 minutes ago, someone who was actually there, someone who witnessed everything firsthand, someone who has been holding their tongue while watching the internet spiral into chaos, finally decided enough is enough and broke their silence with details that have left everyone absolutely shaken. What this crew member revealed is not just shocking, it's heartbreaking, it's eye-opening, and it's a wake-up call about what's really happening behind the glamorous scenes of Nollywood that nobody wants to talk about. So forget everything you think you know, delete those wild theories from your mind, and prepare yourself, because what I'm about to tell you is the raw, unfiltered truth about what led to Sonia's collapse, and trust me, it's going to make you look at this industry very differently. Let me start by saying this because it needs to be crystal clear from the beginning. What happened to Sonia Uche was not a simple case of she was just tired, or she needed water, or any of those casual explanations people have been throwing around like they're discussing someone who overslept. This was a full-blown, medically serious, stress-induced breakdown that had been building up for weeks like a pressure cooker that nobody bothered to turn off until it finally exploded in the most terrifying way possible. The crew member who came forward didn't sugarcoat anything, didn't try to make it sound less serious than it was, and didn't protect anyone's reputation at the expense of the truth. They laid everything out bare, explaining that Sonia had been operating under conditions that would break even the strongest person, pushing herself beyond every reasonable human limit, and ignoring every single warning sign her body was desperately sending her because she felt she had to prove something, had to meet everyone's expectations, had to be everywhere and do everything all at once. And the saddest part, everyone around her could see it happening, could see her deteriorating right before their eyes, but the industry's relentless machine just kept grinding forward, demanding more scenes, more productions, more perfection, until her body finally said, enough is enough, and shut down completely. Now, to understand just how serious this situation was, you need to understand what Sonia's schedule had been like in the weeks leading up to that terrifying moment when she collapsed on set. This woman was not just working on one or two projects like a normal human being who values sleep and sanity. She was juggling multiple productions simultaneously because apparently in Nollywood, when you're hot, everyone wants a piece of you, and they want it yesterday. Sonia was filming for Uche Nancy Productions, which alone would be a full-time commitment for most people, but on top of that, she was also working with several other producers who were practically fighting each other to book her for their projects. These producers, in their desperate rush to capitalize on her current popularity and get their movies done before some arbitrary deadline that probably only exists in their heads, were scheduling her for back-to-back shoots with absolutely zero consideration for whether she's a human being who needs rest or a robot who runs on pure determination and jollof rice. The woman was literally running from one set to another, sometimes filming emotional scenes that require you to cry on command and bare your soul for the camera, then immediately jumping into a car to rush to another location for a completely different character with a completely different emotional state. Can you even think about the mental gymnastics required to pull that off? It's like asking someone to be sad, then happy, then angry, then loving, all within the span of a few hours while operating on minimal sleep and maximum stress. Speaking of sleep, let's talk about what rest meant in Sonia's world during these weeks, because I promise you, it will make your blood boil and your heart break at the same time. The crew member revealed that Sonia was sleeping an average of just 2 hours per night, And I'm not exaggerating or adding drama for effect, that's the actual number, 2 hours. While the rest of us are complaining about getting 6 hours instead of 8 and acting like we're victims of some great injustice, this woman was functioning on less sleep than a newborn baby gives its parents, and then waking up at some ungodly hour to be on set by 6 a.m. looking camera ready, emotionally available, and professionally perfect. Do you understand how insane that is? 2 hours of sleep is not rest, it's a nap. It's what you accidentally do on your couch while pretending to watch a movie. It's not nearly enough time for your body to repair itself, for your mind to process the emotional weight of the scenes you performed all day, or for you to be anything resembling a functional human being. But Sonia kept showing up, kept performing, kept smiling for the cameras and telling everyone she was fine even though she was clearly running on fumes, pure willpower, and probably several cups of coffee that were doing more harm than good at that point. But wait, because it gets even more heartbreaking when you realize that Sonia wasn't just dealing with physical exhaustion from this absolutely brutal schedule. The crew member explained that she was also carrying an enormous emotional burden that had been weighing on her mind for weeks, eating away at her peace, and making it impossible for her to truly rest even during those precious 2 hours of sleep she was managing to get. All those relationship rumors that the internet has been feeding on like vultures on a carcass, all those debates about whether she's with Maurice Sam or Brian Okwara or Timmy or whoever else people decided to ship her with this week, all those invasive questions and judgmental comments and conspiracy theories about her personal life were not just harmless gossip happening in some distant corner of the internet that she could ignore. This is real life, these are real people, and every single one of those rumors was adding to the crushing pressure she was feeling. Can you think about trying to focus on delivering an emotional performance that requires you to be vulnerable and authentic while knowing that thousands of people are online right now dissecting your every move, questioning your character, making assumptions about your relationships, and basically treating your private life like it's their personal entertainment? The mental and emotional toll of that kind of scrutiny on top of physical exhaustion is enough to break anyone, and yet Sonia kept trying to push through it all. The crew member painted a picture that honestly sounds like a nightmare unfolding in slow motion, and the worst part is that people saw it happening but the show literally had to go on. They described how Sonia had been showing signs of serious distress for days before the actual collapse, little warning signs that her body was screaming for help but that she kept trying to hide because she didn't want to be seen as weak, difficult, or unprofessional. Apparently, she had been experiencing minor dizzy spells and brief moments where her legs would get shaky, but she would quickly steady herself, plaster on a smile, and insist she was ready for the next take. The wardrobe team noticed that she had lost weight because her costumes were fitting differently, her eyes had that hollowed-out look of someone who hasn't had proper rest in weeks, and she kept apologizing for things that didn't even require an apology, like asking for a few extra minutes to prepare for a scene or requesting water between takes. This woman was literally apologizing for having basic human needs, and that should tell you everything you need to know about the pressure she was putting on herself and the toxic culture of "the show must go on" that makes people feel like they can't admit when they are struggling without being labeled as difficult or unprofessional. 2 days before everything came crashing down in the most terrifying way possible, something happened that breaks my heart even thinking about it, and when the crew member shared this detail, I genuinely wanted to reach through the screen and give Sonia the hug she clearly needed but probably felt she couldn't ask for. Someone from the crew revealed that they had walked past Sonia's car during a break and found her sitting in the driver's seat, alone, just crying. Not the pretty, single tear rolling down the cheek kind of crying that you see in movies, but the real, gut-wrenching, so deep sobbing of someone who has reached their absolute breaking point but doesn't know how to stop the train they're on. This crew member said they wanted to knock on the window and check if she was okay, but Sonia quickly wiped her tears when she noticed someone nearby, composed herself like nothing had happened, and walked back to set with a smile that apparently fooled everyone except the people who were really paying attention. That visual of her crying alone in her car, trying to hold it together, trying to be strong for everyone else while falling apart inside, is something that should haunt all of us who consume celebrity content without thinking about the human cost behind the glamour and the lights and the final product we see on our screens. Now, let's talk about the day itself, the moment everything fell apart in a way that nobody could ignore or explain away anymore, because what happened on that set was not just dramatic, it was absolutely terrifying for everyone who witnessed it. The crew member described the scene in vivid detail, and even reading their account secondhand made my heart race because you can feel the panic, the fear, and the chaos of that moment jumping off the screen. Sonia was filming a particularly emotional scene, one of those heavy dramatic moments that requires an actor to dig deep into their own pain and vulnerability to make it feel authentic and believable. She was in the middle of delivering her lines, probably giving it everything she had left even though she had nothing left to give, when suddenly her hands started shaking uncontrollably. Not a subtle tremor that only she could feel, but a visible, violent shaking that made it impossible for her to continue the scene. Before anyone could react or ask if she was okay or call for a break, Sonia's eyes rolled back, her legs gave out completely, and she collapsed right there on set in front of dozens of people who could only watch in horror as one of Nollywood's brightest stars crumpled to the ground. The pandemonium that followed Sonia's collapse was apparently something straight out of a nightmare, the kind of chaos where everyone is moving and shouting but nobody knows exactly what to do, and the fear in the air is so thick you could choke on it. The crew member said people were screaming her name, some were crying, others were frantically calling for help, someone was yelling for an ambulance, and there was this collective sense of panic and guilt because deep down, everyone knew this had been coming, everyone had seen the signs, and yet nobody had been able to stop this runaway train before it derailed. The wait for the ambulance probably felt like hours even though it was probably only minutes, and during that time, people were surrounding Sonia, trying to keep her comfortable, fanning her with whatever they could find, and basically falling apart at the seams because nobody wants to watch someone they work with and care about lying unconscious on the ground without knowing if they're going to be okay. When the paramedics finally arrived and started working on her, the set went from chaotic to eerily quiet, that kind of silence where everyone is holding their breath and praying and bargaining with God, promising to be better and do better if only she would be okay. When Sonia finally got to the hospital and the doctors finished their examination, the diagnosis confirmed what everyone had suspected but nobody had wanted to admit. This was a severe stress-induced breakdown caused by chronic exhaustion, emotional strain, and pushing her body far beyond its natural limits. The doctors explained that her collapse wasn't just about being tired or needing a good meal and a nap, it was the result of weeks of accumulating stress, inadequate rest, emotional turmoil, and basically treating her body like it's an indestructible machine that doesn't require maintenance. They said that what happened to Sonia was her body's emergency shutdown mechanism, its last resort way of forcing her to stop before she did permanent damage to herself. The medical team was apparently very stern about the seriousness of the situation, emphasizing that if she had continued on this path for even a few more days, the consequences could have been much worse, potentially life-threatening, and that scared everyone because it suddenly made the industry's toxic work culture feel a lot less like paying your dues, and a lot more like playing Russian roulette with people's lives. But here's the part that really shows you the level of dedication and professionalism and honestly, the concerning level of self-sacrifice that Sonia has been operating with, and I don't know whether to be inspired or deeply worried about what this says about the pressure she feels to perform. The crew member revealed that when Sonia first regained consciousness in the hospital, surrounded by doctors and probably hooked up to various machines monitoring her vitals and pumping fluids back into her severely dehydrated body, the very first thing she asked about was not how long she'd been out, not whether she was going to be okay, not whether anyone had called her family. This woman's first conscious thought was about the scene she had been filming when she collapsed, and she literally asked if she could go back to finish it. Let that sink in for a moment because I don't think people truly understand how simultaneously admirable and absolutely heartbreaking that is. Sonia was so committed to not letting anyone down, so worried about delaying production, so concerned about being seen as unreliable or unprofessional, that even after her body had literally shut down from stress and exhaustion, her first instinct was to get back to work. That level of dedication is what makes someone a star, but it's also what makes them a cautionary tale about what happens when an industry takes and takes and takes without giving people permission to be human. The crew member was very emphatic about something that I think needs to be highlighted in bold letters and shouted from every rooftop because the rumors and speculation online have been spiraling out of control and causing even more harm. They stated clearly and unequivocally that Sonia's collapse had absolutely nothing to do with relationship drama, romantic entanglements, heartbreak, or any of the other juicy gossip that people have been spreading like wildfire across social media. This was not some soap opera moment where a woman faints because a man broke her heart or some love triangle caused her stress. This was pure, unadulterated burnout caused by an industry that demands perfection while providing minimal support, by a work schedule that would break Olympic athletes, by emotional pressure from online scrutiny, and by Sonia's own inability to set boundaries and say no when she desperately needed to. The crew member seemed almost frustrated having to clarify this point because while everyone was online creating elaborate theories about her love life and who did what to whom, the real story was much simpler and much sadder. A hardworking woman pushed herself too hard because she felt she had no other choice, and her body finally forced her to stop. In the aftermath of this terrifying incident, there have been some positive developments that at least give us hope that Sonia will get the rest and recovery she so desperately needs. Uche Nancy, the producer and industry figure who has been such a significant part of Sonia's career, reportedly took immediate and decisive action when she learned the full extent of what had happened. According to the crew member, Uche Nancy shut down an entire day of filming, which in the movie industry is a huge deal because time is money and delays can cost thousands or even millions depending on the production. But she apparently didn't hesitate, didn't try to push through with backup plans or schedule adjustments. She just said, "Stop everything," and made it clear that Sonia's health and recovery were the absolute top priority, period, end of discussion. Uche Nancy is now personally supervising Sonia's recovery process, making sure she's getting proper medical attention, ensuring she's not being pressured to return to work prematurely, and basically acting as a protective barrier between Sonia and an industry that would probably love to have her back on set tomorrow if she felt well enough to stand in front of a camera. The doctors who treated Sonia were very specific about their recommendations, and thank God someone with authority is actually listening to them instead of treating their medical advice like optional suggestions that can be ignored if they're inconvenient for the filming schedule. The medical team prescribed at least 2 full weeks of complete rest, which means no filming, no promotional events, no public appearances, no social media obligations, absolutely nothing that could add stress or demand energy that Sonia needs to direct toward healing her body and mind. But they didn't stop at physical rest. They also strongly recommended therapy to help Sonia process the emotional and psychological aspects of what she's been through, to develop better coping mechanisms for stress, to learn how to set healthy boundaries in her professional life, and to address whatever underlying issues made her feel like she had to push herself to the point of physical collapse before she could give herself permission to rest. This recommendation for therapy is so important because it acknowledges that this isn't just about getting enough sleep and eating proper meals, it's about addressing the mental and emotional patterns that led to this crisis in the first place. The response from fans once the truth started coming out has been overwhelmingly supportive and honestly quite touching, showing that despite all the gossip and speculation and sometimes toxic behavior that happens online, there's a core of genuine care and concern for these celebrities we follow. Social media has been flooded with prayers, well wishes, messages of support, and most importantly, people telling Sonia that she doesn't owe anyone anything, that her health is more important than any movie or scene or production schedule, and that she needs to take all the time she needs to fully recover without feeling guilty or pressure to return before she's ready. Fans are sharing their own stories of burnout and breakdown, creating a space for conversation about mental health and workplace wellness that this industry desperately needs. People are tagging Nollywood producers and industry figures, respectfully but firmly demanding better working conditions, more reasonable filming schedules, and actual support systems for actors who are clearly being pushed beyond healthy limits. There's a growing awareness that the behind-the-scenes reality of Nollywood is not all glamorous and exciting, that there are serious problems with how productions are managed and how actors are treated, and that something needs to change before another talented person ends up in a hospital bed. What makes this entire situation even more poignant is the revelation about how Sonia had been behaving in the days and weeks leading up to her collapse, behavior that shows just how much pressure she was putting on herself and how desperate she was to be seen as professional and capable despite clearly struggling. The wardrobe team shared that Sonia kept apologizing for everything, even things that didn't warrant an apology or that weren't even her fault. She would apologize for needing adjustments to her costume, apologize for asking for a few minutes to rest between takes, apologize for requesting water or needing to use the bathroom, basically treating her basic human needs like they were inconveniences she should feel bad about. This constant apologizing reveals someone who has internalized the toxic belief that taking care of yourself is selfish, that having limitations makes you weak, that asking for help means you're not cut out for this business. And the saddest part is that this mindset doesn't develop in a vacuum. It's created and reinforced by an industry culture that celebrates hustlers who never sleep and dedicated professionals who walk through illness and exhaustion, while quietly punishing anyone who dares to prioritize their health or set boundaries. The crew member also mentioned that Sonia had been experiencing minor fainting episodes for days before the major collapse, but she had been hiding them from everyone because she didn't want to cause delays or be seen as difficult or demanding. She would feel dizzy, steady herself against whatever was nearby, take a few deep breaths, compose herself, and then act like nothing had happened. Sometimes she would excuse herself to the bathroom or her trailer, deal with whatever was happening to her body in private, and then return to set with a smile ready to continue working. This kind of suffering in silence is unfortunately not unique to Sonia. It's a pattern we see across industries where people feel like admitting they're struggling will cost them opportunities, damage their reputation, or make them seem less professional than their peers who are apparently superhuman and never need rest. But here's the thing. Those peers who seem to never struggle are probably either lying about their own difficulties or they're heading toward their own breaking point and we just haven't seen it happen yet. Nobody can maintain that pace indefinitely without consequences. It's not about being strong or weak, it's about basic biology and the fact that human bodies were not designed to function on 2 hours of sleep while managing multiple intense work commitments and emotional stressors. Now, as Sonia focuses on her recovery and hopefully takes the time she truly needs to heal physically, mentally, and emotionally, there's been some discussion about when or if she'll make a public statement about what happened. The crew member was very clear that fans should not expect or pressure Sonia to address this situation on any particular timeline because right now, her only job is to rest and recover, not to manage public relations or explain herself to anyone. If and when she feels ready to share her experience, she will, but that decision needs to come from her own sense of readiness and comfort, not from external pressure or the internet's insatiable appetite for information. There's something really important about respecting someone's privacy and giving them space to process a traumatic experience without immediately demanding they perform their recovery for public consumption. Sonia has spent weeks performing for cameras, meeting everyone else's expectations, and putting on a brave face even when she was falling apart inside, so the least we can do is give her permission to step back, to be silent, to take care of herself without worrying about keeping us updated or satisfying our curiosity. The crew member concluded their statement with a heartfelt plea that I think we all need to hear and really take to heart, not just regarding Sonia but in how we think about and interact with all the celebrities and public figures whose lives we follow online. They urged fans to continue praying for Sonia's strength and healing, to send her positive energy rather than demanding updates or speculating about details we don't need to know, and to use this moment as an opportunity to reflect on how we can be better consumers of entertainment who care about the people creating that content, not just the content itself. They emphasized that Sonia is not just a character on our screens or a personality in our feeds, she's a real human being with a body that needs rest, emotions that need processing, and a life that deserves to be lived at a sustainable pace rather than the breakneck speed that modern entertainment seems to require. This situation should be a wake-up call for everyone in the industry, from producers who create these impossible schedules to fans who sometimes forget there's a real person behind the performances we love. What happened to Sonia Uche is not just her personal story, it's a mirror being held up to an entire industry and its often toxic relationship with work, rest, boundaries, and the mental health of the people who make it function. This is a conversation that Nollywood has been avoiding for too long, sweeping under the rug in favor of celebrating hustle culture and grinding until you collapse, literally in Sonia's case. But we can't keep operating this way, treating people like they're disposable or replaceable, demanding they sacrifice their health for our entertainment, and then acting surprised when they break under the pressure. Something has to change, from how productions are scheduled to how rest is viewed to how actors are supported when they are struggling. This can't be another moment where everyone talks about the problem for a few days and then goes right back to the same destructive patterns once Sonia returns to set and the news cycle moves on to the next drama. So here's what I need from every single person who has made it this far into this story, because words and concern are nice but they mean nothing if they don't translate into actual change in how we think and act. First, if you've been following Sonia's career and enjoying her work, take a moment to actually pray for her recovery, send genuine positive energy her way, and respect her privacy as she heals. Second, if you see other actors showing signs of exhaustion or stress, don't just ignore it or tell yourself it's none of your business. Speak up, offer support, or at minimum don't add to their stress by creating drama or spreading rumors about their personal lives. Third, and this is crucial, we need to hold Nollywood producers and industry leaders accountable for creating sustainable working conditions that allow people to be excellent at their jobs without destroying their health in the process. Comment on this video telling me whether you think the Nollywood industry needs serious reform when it comes to working conditions. Share this story with someone who needs to understand what's really happening behind the scenes, and let's start a real conversation about how we can love and support our favorite actors without loving them to death. Sonia deserves to recover fully and return to work when she's ready, not when the schedule demands it, and every other actor in this industry deserves the same consideration. Now, what are your thoughts on everything that's been revealed? Drop a comment, hit that like button if you found this information important, subscribe so you don't miss updates on Sonia's recovery, and let's keep this conversation going until something actually changes.